I genuinely haven't got the words. I genuinely have not got the words to describe how mental trips to St. James's Park are. Liverpool, once again, doing what we did in 2019, doing what we did 2 years ago. We've gone to St. James's Park and we haven't wiped the floor with Newcastle, but we've come away with 3 points at a time where we did not deserve 3 points. We deserved, quite frankly, nothing from this match. But my God, once again, we've shown why we are the champions. Once again, we have shown why, despite the fact that we've come from 2 goals down, yet again, despite the fact that we were poor defensively, despite everything that's gone on, we've gone to St. James's Park and we have just completely taken Newcastle to the cleaners in terms of the result. Rio Ngumoha, the young 16-year-old, not even 17 years of age, coming on against Newcastle at St. James's Park, very Darwin Núñez, very Divock Origi, and has gone and picked up the win. 3 points in the bag for Liverpool. Welcome to Late Night Live. Apparently it's Lewis's Late Night Live. I'm fine with that. Basically, the way this is going to work, every midweek game, I'm going to be doing the post-match reaction. So all your Champions League, your cup games, the Monday night footballs, I'm going to be doing all the reactions to them. And you guys need to get involved in the comments. Let me know what you've been thinking of this match. What did you think of our trip to St. James's Park? Once again, showing why Newcastle and Liverpool is one of the most exciting fixtures in the history of Premier League football. Massive result in a match which undeniably I don't think we particularly deserved the win in. And I think pretty much most people would agree with that. My plan was I was going to type it up in a presentation, go through all this, but there was 11 minutes of added time. We had to wade it all out. The stream was originally pushed back because I couldn't get everything done in time, but now we are live and we are here to discuss what is... Look, let's not beat around the bush. In terms of a performance, in terms of a match itself, this was not composed. This was not faultless from us. This was not a perfect response from Liverpool. This was a match which very much we needed to grind out. This was a game where we felt like we were up against it. Despite the ESAC connotations, despite everything that was going on around us, we had to really fight for this result. And I'm just going to change my light in here just to see if that actually affects anything. There we go. We had to really fight for this. And it always is at St. James's Park. Look, you can go back to 2013-14 season. We struggled there. We struggled in like 97. We struggled in a lot of seasons at St. James's Park. It is one of the hardest grounds to go to, regardless of the situation Newcastle are in, regardless of how everything is. And we've gone there today and we've actually bettered what we did last season. We did more than we did last season. Last season, we got a 3-3 draw. The 3-2 result is what it should have been last season, bar a Keane Kelleher mistake. This season, we've corrected that with a worse performance, I would say, but a better result. And that shows there's growth. Yes, there was no ESAC. Yes, it was a 10-man Newcastle, and we will get into that. This is not me sitting here saying that we were perfect, we were faultless. Far from it. There is a lot of stuff to work on, and I'm going to sort of go through them. We're going to break them down as we go, and you guys get involved in the comments. Let me know what you think of this result. Let me know what you think, all of it, everything, because there's a plenty to dissect. I suppose we can start off in the first half, because that first half against Newcastle was pretty much, I think, the way we thought it was going to go. I predicted before the match, look, we can't try and play through the middle. We can't try and beat Newcastle's press. We can't try and outwork them by any stretch of the imagination. It's not going to work against Tonali, Guimaraes and Joel Linton, regardless of the pressing power of Wirtz, regardless of Curtis Jones's talent for, maybe not pressing, but he's an ever-present kind of player. And alongside him, you had a returning Gravenberch. Like, we were never going to outwork that Newcastle midfield. But we've gone out there today and asserted ourselves once again. Not a faultless performance by any means. Not by any means was this a performance that we should look at and actually be happy with. The result we can be happy with. The fact that Rio and Ngumoha scored, we can be happy with. The fact that Ekitike continues his goal-scoring form, we can be happy with. But we can't be thrilled with the manner in which we played, because by all accounts, we were poor tonight. Regardless of circumstance, regardless of where we were, against any team, that was a poor performance. And in hindsight, this is a 10-man Newcastle team with Anthony Gordon getting sent off. We'll touch on that shortly. 10-man Newcastle, no Alexander Isak. Tonali goes off injured. And once again, for a second match in a row, we go from 2 goals up to level. And there are clear problems in this side. There are clear things that need addressing. But undeniably, just, yeah, it's been absolutely mental. And bear with me, because for some reason, there we go. It said the chat was turned off, but now we're back on. There we go. Everyone who tried to comment, you can get involved. I don't know why it wasn't showing on the thing. Bear with me. There we go. Now everyone can actually get involved in the comments, because, yeah, there we go. Now the comments aren't showing. I was wondering why there was nothing. I was like, I'm sure people will be getting involved in this, because this is a huge, huge moment for us. Everyone get involved. Let me know what you're thinking of this now that I can actually see your comments. There are things to analyze. There are things to discuss. Overall, there are positives, of course, but there is a lot of negatives to discuss. The chat's turned off. It's not now. Don't worry. It's working out. Up the mighty Reds. Absolutely. Canate is a big problem. We'll talk on him in a second. But yeah, we'll go through this bit by bit. I've made notes as we went. I was trying to do this as like a PowerPoint presentation. That will be the format going forward. It was just with the added time and the rush to get everything out, the excitement. I think I just got too excited with Rio Ngumoha's goal. I've sort of done it on here, but we'll sort of discuss it all and let you guys know. But my first half negatives, we're going to get the negatives out the way first, end on the positives. I think that's the best way to do this. We're going to touch on the things that really stressed us out, the things that really irritated us through the match. And we'll start off with Newcastle. Through the match, their man marking, I think they just marked us out the game in that first half. Completely bullied us off the ball. There are major concerns in that back line in terms of, I think, Canate, like someone said. Canate is a big problem at the moment. He really, really is not adapting well to this new season. Doesn't look like he's with it at all in terms of his headspace. Physically, he's not competing well. In the air, he looks poor. For that second goal in particular, just so weak. Weak, man. Not enough in him to actually fight for the ball and actually try and win it. Awful performance, I think, from him. He was poor against Bournemouth. He was poor in the Community Shield. Something's got to change here. Whether it's Gahey coming in, whether it's something else going on, I don't know. But I don't know. Something's got to be changing with Canate at the moment, because right now, not looking too good for him. Trying to play through the middle. Trying to play through the middle against Newcastle. I don't know why we consistently tried to do it. It was never going to happen. Newcastle, per 90 minutes, they put out some of the best distance covered, some of the best pressing metrics in the Premier League. In that last match, I think the Newcastle midfielders between them averaged around 28 kilometers combined, close to 31, 28 and 31, around that mark. Trying to outplay them, trying to outplay this Newcastle team who their whole style is predicated on, you can't put the ball through the middle because we will not let you. So you will try and lump it long, but Dan Burn will clear it up. That is the whole way they play. They want us to realize we can't get through the middle. We can't try and outplay them. So we have to go over the top. We have to go route one. We have to try and find Ekitike. But Dan Burn is going to win that battle every time. That's something that's got to be worked on against the Newcastle team. I suggested putting it out wide. And whenever the ball went out wide to Salah, whenever it went wide to Gakpo, whenever Szoboszlai ventured forward, whenever Kirkes did, there was space. There was a lot of things to work with. Going through the middle, it didn't happen. And in that first half, Tonali, Guimaraes, Joelinton bullied us. And honestly, my list of positives for that first half, I've got 4. My list of negatives, you're looking at around 10 to 15. That was an awful performance in that first half. We looked off the pace. Gravenberch was putting in rash tackles. Newcastle were winning every second ball. And if you want to be a Premier League winning team, again, if you want to defend that title, you can't be losing those midfield battles. We didn't look composed. Every time the ball would go to one of our players, there was a Newcastle man right on us, man marking us every single second of every single minute. The ball would bounce off and Newcastle would be on it. They would be the first to react. They'd be the first to respond. And we didn't learn through that lesson. For 45 minutes, we did not learn that lesson at all. And yes, we did get the Gravenberch goal. Absolutely. That's something we'll talk on shortly. But like I said here, against an Arsenal team, they will rip us apart if that's how we're going to play against them. Against the midfield team of Ødegaard, Rice, Zubimendi, you've then got the likes of Marino who can come on. There is a multitude of physical, fast, aggressive players in that Arsenal team who will punish us. And we can't be reliant on a Gravenberg goal, which very rarely comes. We can't be relying on a Rio Ngumoha late-minute winner. We can't be relying on Ekitike continuing to score over and over and over again. There's got to be a plan in place. And this first half against Newcastle showcased the best of us and the worst of us. Despite the fact that we were up against it, despite the fact that we were under the cosh, we still scored a goal. But we lost every challenge. We lost every tackle. Every ball into the box, no one looked composed to deal with. Van Dijk didn't look good in the air. No one did. And there's a lot of comments I can already see touching on Milos Kerkez. To give my overall summary on Kerkez, I think this was a bad game for him. Kerkez is not a physical player. And for that Guimaraes goal, he was bullied. Every single time the ball went to his half, in the first half of that match, Gordon and Barnes were targeting Szoboszlai. That was obvious. That was always going to happen. As the game progressed, it got moved to the right-hand side. It got moved to Kerkez's side because they realised he is the weak link. He is the area of the back four that you can really get at. You've got Van Dijk, Konate, and you've got a makeshift midfielder as a right-back. And to Newcastle, the strength in their attack was the side that Milos Kerkez was on because physically he could not match the game. He could not match what Elanga was putting up against him. He could not match what Guimaraes was putting up against him. There's an instance in the second half where Newcastle were trying to cross the ball in and Fabian Schär is bullying him. That needs to be worked on. Kerkez, I think, will come good. He's very much a player who enjoys space to run into. He's an attack-minded fullback. Defensively, though, there is real issues. And someone put winning ugly as the champion's trait. It is a champion's trait, absolutely. But it's a champion's trait when you're later on in the season and you've got points to work with. That's when you're in the grind. That's when you're in those last few matches. Point to point, I get that. But we're 2 games in, and we've relied on late winners for both of them against Bournemouth and Newcastle. Bournemouth team, by the way, who had their best defensive players picked apart in the summer. A Newcastle team without Isak, who were down to 10 men. When we get to an Arsenal at the Etihad, at the Emirates even, when we get to City, when we get to Tottenham, who are in this run of form, Chelsea, we're not going to be that tight. We're not going to get those results. We need to fix these problems that are coming into the team. Defensively, we look poor. Midfield looks weak. Wirtz is the only midfielder really pressing and giving us an impetus to attack at the moment. I don't think Jones had a bad game, but a lot of our attacking threat and a lot of our pressing opportunities came through Florian Wirtz in this match, and that is something that we need to work on. Kerkez awful, Wirtz awful. Kerkez, I can agree, had a bad game. Florian Wirtz, I just think he had an ineffective game. I don't think he had an awful one per se. I think his pressing was good, but it was his decision-making at points. I can absolutely see that. We should have kept Hugo on, and Slot needs to learn to sub off Salah. Salah got the assist. He had an awful game beyond that, but he did get the assist. So it is a sort of thing of, yeah, maybe at the time it would have been good to sub him off, but if he subs him off, who knows what happens. But I do agree, Ekitike, I was watching the match with my cousin, and he said, look, Ekitike should just be playing this full 90 minutes. But we've got Arsenal. He's our only striker at the moment. He's on good form. You don't want to burn him out. And until Isak comes in, which I don't think is happening now, if I'm being completely honest, he's going to need to be rotated. Good analysis, bro. Thank you very much. It's not really analysis. I'm just sort of waffling with excitement because, like, that was a mental result, and just, yeah. There's definitely an element of the players getting to know each other in their early games. Absolutely. There's the winning ugly is a champion's trait. Won the game from the jaws of defeat. Don't know how Liverpool won. Second best all game. Liverpool have got a never say die attitude. And this is the thing. This is the thing about Liverpool. Even when things are going bad, even things are going wrong, we can say, look, we can scrape results. We are the better than anyone at pulling games from the jaws of depth and getting these results. Newcastle's no exception. Origi's goal in 2019, we did it with Darwin Núñez. You go back to that incredible, the greatest game in Premier League history, arguably 4-3 at Anfield. Like, there's so many examples of us getting one over on Newcastle, getting these results. But it's still not a good sign that it's only the second game of the season and so many defensive cracks are showing. We've conceded 4 goals in 2 games, 6 goals in 3 games if you count the Crystal Palace one. Pre-season, we were conceding left, right, and centre at points. We conceded to Yokohama, we conceded to Bilbao. Something has got to change here. And I think if we're talking about us as a club, it's all well and good that we picked up the win. 3 points is brilliant, but there are major concerns because we're not playing. Our next game isn't a Burnley, a Sunderland, isn't like a newly promoted team. This is the team that are competing with us for the Premier League title in Arsenal. This is a team who are going to be competing with us for the top spot of the Premier League, who have just beat Leeds 5-0, who beat United 1-0 even when they were getting battered. They've shown the same mentality that we showed here. The difference is they're not conceding goals. Newcastle at the moment were very open the way they attacked. Ekitike's goal was brilliant. The first goal as well, bit of a wonder one. And Ngumoha's was just Newcastle were pressing too high. Arsenal are not going to allow us that same liberty. And we've got to address these defensive problems. Like that second goal, I do not understand why the high line was pushed so high. I cannot comprehend how that happened, how we allowed that back line to push so high when you know that Dan Burn, who bullied us in that League Cup final, who bullied us all match today, would be against Konate, who looks like he's got his head up his arse. He just doesn't look like he's committed, doesn't look like he turns like a ship, and he needs to sort that out majorly. But anyway, yeah, we kept going long. Obviously, the press through the midfield wasn't working. There was a lot of space that Newcastle could operate with. We couldn't find any sort of avenue of attack. And ultimately, the ball was getting put over the top, wasn't going anywhere spectacular. And that was our downfall, was Dan Burn dominated in the air. And I'll try and find his, I've got it here actually, Dan Burn, see what he actually did. So according to this, he only recorded a 5.6 rating on SofaScore. Let me just see if I can share this really quick, which, you know, it's a bit of a harsh criticism, I've got to say, to give Dan Burn a 5.6. I understand that we're talking about Liverpool, but oh my God, he's a ridiculous player to be able to get the score that he is. Dan Burn, just get this up. There we go. So Dan Burn, 4 of 9 aerial duels, 1. I'm just going to put myself on the other side. No. Okay, we'll keep it there. Yeah, Dan Burn, 4 of 9 aerial duels, 1. His passing, yeah, but he wasn't trying to do anything. 1 key passes, long balls, accurate, yeah, sure, whatever. 2 interceptions, 9 clearances, total tackles 1, 4 of 9 aerial duels 1. He dominated us all match, Dan Burn, and that was the issue that we had. We just couldn't get an outlet, couldn't go through the middle, couldn't go out wide. Ball would go in the air, and Konate he holds on to people too much. He just looks so slow to react. The ball will go over the top. He'll grab onto someone to say, right, I'm going to outmuscle you. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Last season, it was phenomenal. But Konate is in his best performance. He's in his best mode when he's able to run into space, when he's got space to sprint into because he's a very fast player, when he's covering behind Van Dijk because Van Dijk's the sweeper, so to speak. Against a physical player like we saw today, even like a Guimaraes, like a Dan Burn for that second goal, he just doesn't look open. Like he doesn't look capable of defending the ball. And there's so many instances of him where he's trudging back, slow as you like, not prepared to get rid of the ball, not prepared to put himself in the right position. And you've got to understand that this is a Dominic Szoboszlai right back, someone who is not used to that position, someone who is having to rely on his centre backs to get him through the game. And Konate should be leading him by example. Let's flip the script. Let's say if this was Szoboszlai operating on the left-hand side and Jeremy Frimpong was fine, Van Dijk would coach Szoboszlai through that match. Van Dijk would operate as if that was his child and he would look after him. He'd help him position. He would be prepared to cover him. Konate just left Szoboszlai to it. And when he did drift over, it was just half-arsed. He just didn't look like he was at all interested in actually getting to the ball. It was a woeful performance. Dom was amazing at right back today. I think Dominic Szoboszlai, you know what? Against the Newcastle team, there was a lot of people who were pitching that Joe Gomez should start. There were a lot of people who were pitching that Conor Bradley should just get minutes. Dominic Szoboszlai was an outrageously good performance and did better than I think he had any credit to do against this Newcastle team. Because when he got the ball, he wasn't erratic with it. He wasn't trying to just get rid of it for the sake of getting rid of it. He wasn't trying to force himself into positions that he wasn't comfortable with. He was very good. And this isn't like he's competing against players who, you know, are inexperienced, so to speak. This is Anthony Gordon, Harvey Barnes, even Elanga at points drifted out to the left-hand side. Szoboszlai was very, very composed and very good. 4 of 8 accurate long balls because we know we can do that. An 89 accurate pass accuracy, 57 touches. Won 1 of his 4 ground duels. A bit of cause for concern then. He was driven past once, but he also put in 1 tackle. He put in 4 clearances. It wasn't like he did anything exceptional, and he was never going to do that. He was never going to put in a Frimpong level performance. He was never going to put in a Steve Finnan performance. He was never going to put in a performance that you look at and go, right, that's our starting right back. He was there to do a job. And he did exactly that. He will not start against Arsenal. That will be Conor Bradley. But for someone who was thrown in at the deep end against the Newcastle team with interchanging left wingers in Harvey Barnes and Gordon, who in their last match against Aston Villa took 17 shots between them, with only 3 of them coming from the centre third of the pitch, he was up against it. And that's exactly what he had today. A really difficult test. And he did brilliant. And like someone said, Szoboszlai, 10 out of 10, just for that dummy to Rio Ngumoha. Phenomenal from him. And yeah, I think he really showcased why he was tested in preseason at right back. He was calm on the ball. When we needed moments to take the sting out of the game, when we needed players who were able to just pick a pass and just slow down the tempo, it was nice having him there. Whereas if Frimpong had the ball, for example, he would have been looking for space to run into. He would have wanted the intensity to be kept high. So Szoboszlai was brought in for the simple fact of, I want you to slow it down. I want you to find a defender to pass the ball to. I want you to show composure, take the sting out of the match. And that's exactly what he did. He calmed things down in moments we needed to. Solid defensively, positioned himself well. Occasionally, he would be caught by the overlapping run of a defender. That's absolutely fine. I can accept that. But he did very well. And I'm happy that he did put in the performance that he did at right back. Next note, yes, Szoboszlai was often 2-on-1. The referee in that first half, up until the Gordon decision, oh my Lord. Some of the decision-making was woeful. The yellow card on Gravenberg, it is what it is. But some of the fouls that were being given away were ridiculous. Shoulder barges, 50-50 situations that were just not going our way. And I do think that there would have been a narrative of, if we had lost the match, that probably would have been a big center of attention. And it shouldn't have been. It really shouldn't have been. But hey-ho, it is what it is. What do people think of the ref cam, by the way? I kind of like it in a weird way. I'm not going to lie to you. I like the perspective of it. I don't like how Americanized the sport's become now. I don't like the whole speaking in the stadium. I don't like the halftime interviews. But I think the ref cam's actually quite interesting. I do enjoy that whole aspect of it. Adds a different dimension. It's a different camera angle. That's all it is. It's not like it's offending anyone. So much space in the center of the box. And again, this comes from Milos Kerkez. Anthony Gordon, right-hand side of the box, looking for a cross in the 28th minute. Kerkez does not press him. And that's something that Kerkez, again, showcased today like he did against Bournemouth. He's so resistant. It's like there's no middle ground. He either relentlessly presses someone to the point of giving away a foul, or he's so standoffish because he's scared he's going to do something. He is so stuck in purgatory. He doesn't know whether to push. He doesn't know whether to defend. He doesn't know what to do. And Milos Kerkez has been brought in with this. People were comparing him to Risa. And Risa was not the best defensive player, but my God, he was committed. And my God, if he was in a 50-50, if he was in a physical battle, if he was competing against someone, he'd win it. He wouldn't get shoved out the way. I keep going back to the second goal, but Kerkez, he's just so weak physically. He may be good on the ball. He may be quick going forward. He may be able to create and have a go at goal. And maybe, we saw that at Bournemouth. But when you're up against it, he's not got the physical composure. And I think Andrew Robertson was absolutely needed at points in this match today. Yeah, I understand he struggles. He would have struggled against Elanga massively. Kerkez didn't do any better. Kerkez struggled. And I think that if you'd had Andrew Robertson, someone who could bring that composure down, yeah, we won. I'm not taking away from that at all. But there's a few instances where I'm looking at Kerkez right now and I'm far from writing him off. Don't get me wrong. I'm not slating him to the point of being like, well, it's not working. He's Alberto Moreno 2.0. But come on now. Just 83% passing accuracy. 0 of his 5 long balls were accurate. Was fouled once. Lost possession 11 times. Dribble errors leading to goal 1. There's concerns for Kerkez. There is concerns. And someone put Elanga did nothing in the game. No, he didn't do anything major, but that's the issue. Kerkez was still struggling. Whenever Guimaraes would go out wide into the right position, which they did when they went to the 10, Elanga was being focused more centrally. He was getting moved into the further middles of the pitch. Guimaraes would go out there. Guimaraes he would push outside to the right-hand side. He struggled against him. Shaw, in the last minutes of the game, was going into that position, and Kerkez struggled. He couldn't even get near the ball. And that's something that's got to be addressed. 5 in Newcastle's midfield, we couldn't play through the middle, as I've already touched on. But, is what it is. Let's start to go to the positives. Wirtz is pressing. In that first half, at moments he was at right back, at moments he was at left wing. Someone said Wirtz needs to speed up, possibly in terms of his passing, but I think in terms of pressing, he gave us that energy in the middle of the pitch that we really, really, really needed. I haven't got the distance covered stat yet, but I will not be surprised if Florian Wirtz covered more distance than anyone. And actually, I'll showcase his heat map now because I've got it available on the screen. The amount of distance that he covered is reflected in how, in this heat map here, the amount of areas of the pitch he was covering. He was at left back at points, CDM, attacking midfield, right wing, left wing. He covered all aspects of the pitch. And I understand there's a big difference between pressing for the sake of it and effective pressing. And that's something that Henderson did well. He effectively pressed. And that's something that maybe Harvey Elliott gets a lot of stick for. First one that pops in my head, where it feels like he presses just for the sake of it. There's no effectiveness to it. And I think that Wirtz did a very good job this game of putting the pressure on Newcastle's midfielders, making sure that the game opened up, trying to find a way through. But you're absolutely right. He does need to read the game better. He'll absolutely adapt. And there's quality there in Florian Wirtz. Undeniably, there was quality in him. He was someone who, through this match, I think Newcastle could see if anyone was going to get a creative spark in midfield, if Newcastle were in any way, shape, or form going to suffer in terms of our attack, it was going to be Florian Wirtz. And that's why he was ganged up on. Couldn't make a killer pass and show any substantial creativity. And that's because he was smothered. You've got a Newcastle midfield. You've got a Newcastle midfield 5, essentially, when they went down to 10 men, who smothered the ball, stayed in the middle of the pitch, didn't allow anyone any time or space. And then we had to go long. We had to put it over the top. And Dan Burn was there to clear up everything. And we really did struggle against that. Florian Wirtz was not allowed any creativity, any space to work with, no time on the ball, hardly. That's something he's going to have to adapt to. And when he is on the pitch, Florian Wirtz, it's nice that we've got someone who's able to coordinate in different positions. He can go out wide. He can go through the middle. And this is why I think you can find a way to maybe get Ekitike and get Isak in the same team because of Wirtz's flow, like the way he's able to move around, the way he's able to interchange with other players. You can make that work. Defense is not settled apart from Verge. Absolutely. Canate doesn't look up to it. Makeshift right back. Kirkes at left back hasn't been great, but it is where it is. Lewis Aspinall, I think Slot has give up control for whatever. Those first two matches, it does feel very much a sense of, if you score 2, we'll score 3. If you score 3, we'll score 4. And we had that with Brendan Rodgers. And I'm not in any way comparing Slot to Brendan Rodgers in that, in like any substantial sense. He's won as a league. He's already light years ahead of where Rodgers was. But in that 13-14 season, Suarez, Sturridge, Sterling, Coutinho, I mention it all the time. It just felt very much like, because we knew our defense wasn't structured, because we knew there wasn't a defensive plan in place, we will just outscore anyone we play. And there's so many games, like we beat Cardiff 6-3 that season. There's so many examples of teams that we played who we just blew out the water with goals, and it made up for everything. It made up for the defensive lapses in the team. And the match against Bournemouth felt like this. The match today felt like this. It feels like there's a lot of examples of games recently, even the Community Shield, to a sense, where if you do score X amount, we'll score X amount. It doesn't matter. It's not a reliable way to do, because we can't scrape every game. We can't scrape every game in that way. I just think he's still finding the right balance, and defense will improve. I kind of agree, but at the same time, I'd say our defense is better last season. We weren't this open. We really, really weren't this open. And supposedly, we've got a better back line. We went 3 games at the start of last season without conceding against Brentford, Ipswich, and United. And yes, Slot was new. Yes, that's a newly promoted team, Brentford, and a piss-poor Manchester United side. Still 3 clean sheets in a row. We kept 2 clean sheets against City. Are we going to do that against them this season? This back line's meant to be better. And there's still concerns. It's just defensive errors that have cost us goals. Well, that first goal, for example, the Gimaresh one was down to, Kirkes was bullied off the ball. But it was just poor all over the park. And then the second one, the Onuawu one, there was a multitude of mistakes to it. And Canate was bullied. No one was ready on the back post. It's individual errors, but how long are we going to say, right, it's individual errors? And how many times are we going to say, Defenders are pushing too high. The line's too high. There's too much space in between the centre halves. At some point, you can't just say, well, that's individual errors. Because if you're having individual errors every single game against Palace, against Bournemouth, against Newcastle, against Arsenal on Sunday, that's you saying, well, the players aren't good enough then. But these players that we've brought in are supposedly better than what we had. So it's open for interpretation. We've played worse in 3 games. Ekitike come off. Does this mean anything? Yeah, because we lose our attacking impetus. We've got no option off the bench. And I will not slate Liverpool for this. The Jota situation was, no one anticipated it. Darwin Núñez was never good enough to be a first teamer, but he was an effective option you could bring off the bench in moments, in matches. We've got a real lack of attacking depth. We've got a real issue up top, and that's why we're trying to get Isak. But my worry is, people out there are saying, right, we need to stick with Isak. We need to make sure that we're waiting for him when the offer does become available. What if they say no? What if we leave this to the last day of the season and we go into the remainder of the campaign without a second striker or someone we can rotate with Ekitike? We saw today, we brought Chiesa on through the middle and he was ineffective. Salah had a poor game, but you've got no one to bring on for him. There's a problem there. There's a real problem. And we can't rely on Isak being the definitive answer to this. If Isak doesn't come, there needs to be another option. We need a forward in this window, undeniably, or it will not work. Because like we've seen in the past 3 games, as soon as our one central attacker comes off in the front line, we struggle to find any kind of attacking threat and impetus. We have to rely on a Chiesa wonder goal. We have to rely on a 16-year-old Rio Ngumoha coming on and finding acres of space because Newcastle defenders have switched off. That is what it is. Let's see. There's a few comments flying in. Just keep the comments coming in, by the way, please. It really does help out. Having a composed leader like Gakey next to Verge will be an improvement. Possibly. No, I agree, actually. You know, I'm in complete agreement. I don't know why I said possibly. So we cut apart. We need another forward. Yeah, absolutely agree. I would play Leone on Sunday instead of Konate. I disagree with that one. Not in a sense of I don't want to see Leone, but I just think against Arsenal, they will have a field day against him. Young. Keep in mind, this is a Leone who's only made 29 appearances in his senior career at club level. 1 in Serie C, 12 in Serie B, and 16 or 17 in Serie A. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. It's been a few weeks since I did a video on my channel. He's inexperienced, and against an Arsenal line who just scored 5 against Leeds, against Gyökeres, I think he'll struggle maybe. I don't know. But yeah, we'll move on to the second half then, get the negatives out of the way, because this is a positive one. We've just won. We just won at St. James's Park, as much as, you know, negatives are creeping up. That's how this is getting drunk, because St. James's Park are crying at the moment. If Isak wasn't coming to us before, yeah, Kirke's getting bullied. Why he's on the back post, why we insist on sticking our shortest players against the most physical Newcastle players. And this is something you've got to give Newcastle credit for, is because for all that they're physical, they're technically good as well. They've found that fine balance where Guimaraes is a big lad, Joel Linton, Dan Burn, all these other players, but they're good on the ball. They fit the system. Konate just didn't look composed. No Anthony Gordon and no Tonali, down to 10 men. Still struggled. And there's a problem there. We were up against it for large portions that second half. But Ekitike coming on, just coming out in the second half, getting that goal. And there's so much to say. He started that whole movement. Ekitike started the entire movement of that second goal. He was effective. And we saw it in pre-season against, I want to say, Yokohama, when Cody Gakpo hit the post. Ekitike came deep in the pitch, and he started the movement. He started the play. He made it so that we would get that moment. Like, he was so physical, and he's, how do I explain it? He's so good at coming deep. He's your false 9 equivalency. And I understand that he's not a Bobby Firmino, and I'm not comparing him to that, but he's one of the most creative forward options in the front line of any side in Europe last season. The top 6% of strikers for progressive passes, progressive carries. Creatively, he was making more shot-creating actions than I think any other striker in the Bundesliga, bar I think Harry Kane. That's just because of the amount that Bayern scored. Having Ekitike drop deep, start the movement for that goal, pass it out to Gakpo, finds himself on the edge of the box. That's what we wanted from Darwin Núñez, but he couldn't do it. He's not able to do that. He's not a creative enough player. Ekitike is able to do it. And in that first half, his passing was poor. A wayward pass out to the advertising board. A moment where he's on the half turn, he gets tackled, and Newcastle almost score from it. There are a few instances in this game where you look at him and think, right, that has to improve, that has to change, that has to be different. But as an overall player, as your creative number 9, Ekitike is someone who you can definitely rely upon to do it. And yeah, I like someone says, why does he keep taking off Ekitike? I think it's because Slot sees how important he is. Slot sees how important he is to this side, and we have to rotate him and rest him because there is no striker at the moment. We know we need another option at number 9. We know we need someone who can rotate, and we know we need someone who we can bring on in those instances that isn't Federico Chiesa in the middle, because God love him. I love Chiesa, but it doesn't work the same. You're taking him off because he's your only striking option, and he's going to start against Arsenal. Will he get the full 90 minutes? I hope so, but probably not. Our hands are tied, and we do need someone else that we can bring in. It's cool. Knows not to stay on side. Ekitike, I think he had a brilliant game. He had a really, really good game. A few instances where it was like, okay, you could maybe do better here. But as an overall, his passing leaves a lot to be desired. Only 50% of his passes were accurate, but he made 2 key passes. He won 2 of his 7 ground duels, 1 of his 3 aerial duels. He was fouled once as well. He also put in 3 clearances. Overall, a good performance from Ekitike. I understand that in that first half he was poor, but I think everyone was. No one in that first half was brilliant. And it's just nice that he's been able to score again. Carrying on with the negatives in that second half, just to sort of get him out the way, because I want to focus on the positives now. Konate, beaten far too easily. Attacking changes introduced in the 96th minute, which I had as a negative originally, but Rio and Ngumoha. Oh my word. There is few words I can do to sum up this lad. From the moment he got on the ball, that first instance where he had 2 defenders come on him, he was trying to make something happen. He was trying to cause problems in that Newcastle backline. He was trying his hardest to make sure that something was in this match. And it was. We all knew it was. We all knew that this was something which there was something to gain from this. We knew that we could easily get at Newcastle at moments when they opened up. Saw it in the first minute of the second half. Ngumoha came on and made all the difference. He made all the difference. He was pressing. As soon as he got the ball, his first instinct wasn't, let's slow this down, put it back to Kerkez. Let's cut inside. It was, how can I take this ball and get past that defender to make something happen? And he almost did. And then the ball comes in, Salah, 1 ball across, and Dominic Szoboszlai, how he knew Ngumoha was there, I will never know. But my God, the confidence of this lad, this young man, 16 years old, he's 12 years younger than me, and he's scoring at St. James's Park against Newcastle to win us the match. The confidence he displays, and so many people are going on about Bauman from Arsenal. Ngumoha, that is a huge, huge moment for him. And there's so many people in the media and all that who were saying, well, Liverpool need a winger. And we do. I do think we need another option up top. But I've seen people say that we don't want to hamper the development of Rio and Ngumoha. And if that performance is anything to go off, if that impact is anything to go off, it's hard to argue it. He changed that match. He won us that match, Rio and Ngumoha. And I said at the start of the season, I want to see him get minutes. I want to see him get played. And I was worried that when he wasn't getting minutes in the Community Shield, I thought, is he going to get trusted against Arsenal? Is he going to get trusted against City? Is he going to get trusted against Chelsea? He's been trusted at St. James's Park, in one of the most hostile atmospheres in the Premier League, one of the most hostile atmospheres we're going to see this season with the Isak situation, everything going on, with Newcastle coming from 2 goals down, and he finishes that ball like he's prime Torres, like he's prime Suarez, like he's prime Foul, like anyone. I was convinced he was going to miss that, and he finished it perfectly. That was an incredible moment. And like someone said, there's something special if Slot is trusting a 16-year-old to change the match at St. James's. I can't stress this enough. This is St. James's Park. Yeah, say what you want about Newcastle. Say what you want about the way they've been managed lately. Say what you want about the Steve McLaren. This isn't the Steve McLaren, Steve Bruce, all these, this isn't this type of Newcastle team that you look at and think this is a joke. This is a team who are in the Champions League, who beat us in the Carabao Cup, who boast some of the best players in the Premier League. I've said it, it's true. And he's come on at St. James's Park, a ground we have notoriously struggled at in recent years. We scraped it 2 years ago. We drew there last season. I don't think we deserve that in particular. And he's won us the match. It's a problem. It's a big problem overall when we're relying on that kind of moment, that kind of young lad coming on and making a difference. But as a moment itself, as a moment in football and history, in Premier League history, in just its individual facet, that is a brilliant, brilliant moment. It's not quite the Darwin Núñez level, but to go from 2 goals down to 2-2, finding yourselves up against it, and a 16-year-old comes on and makes all the difference. That's massive. We saw Michael Owen do it against Wimbledon. You know, we've seen young lads in the past who come on and make a big impact. There's few that spring to mind that are more of an impact than that. And I didn't see the celebration. I was too busy jumping around, shouting. I don't know how he celebrated. I didn't see the passion on him. I haven't seen any of that yet. I need to go back and watch it all. But I can only imagine it was ridiculous because, my God, that is a huge, huge, monumental moment. We'll go through the comments sort of as we're going on now, because we'll end up wrapping up in like probably the next 10 minutes. So it doesn't change the fact that we can see 2 goals per game in our gameplay. It's true. 3 games in a row, we've gone from 2 goals up to being 2-2, and we lost the first one. We scraped the one against Bournemouth, and we scraped the one today. There is a problem. And like I've said, we've got Arsenal next Sunday. 6 goals scored for them, 0 goals conceded. They're going to be our toughest rival for the league. City, you know, City is City, but that result against Tottenham may have just been a one-off. We don't know. They've lost other matches in the past and still bounced back. So that's up in the air. But it doesn't bode well. And there is defensive structure issues. There's a clear lack of real defensive talent in that midfield. Gravenberch, for all he's good on the half-turn, defensively, he's not the most astute player. There's still a big gap. And I understand Slot's sort of mindset. I understand his desire to say, look, no, things aren't that bad. You know, we've got this player and this player. He's lying to himself if he says that he's not worried. And he's lying to us if he says the exact same thing, because we're worried as a fan base for the lack of depth we have. We can all see that Canate looks checked out. There's a real lack of quality in our up front. Even with Ekitike on, Salah today was awful, and he hasn't had a good game this season. Didn't in the Community Shield, didn't against Bournemouth, didn't today. Still gets a goal, still gets an assist. That's brilliant. That's fine. But it's all well and good him getting those moments, but he needs to get back to that level. And will he? We don't know. Gakpo, bar those 2 assists, I think he had a pretty poor game. Ekitike is your only real attacking threat, and even then he didn't have a brilliant game. There's clear areas of the pitch which need improvement. We've fixed our left-back issue, supposedly. Fixed our right-back issue, supposedly. We've brought in Wirtz, brilliant signing. We've fixed our striker issue to a degree, but that was out of our hands. There's clear parts of the pitch, clear parts of our game which are going to need improving, going to need to develop more, and we will work on that. We will look to bring in Isak. We will look to bring in Gehi. We will look to bring in whoever that we need to. But if we don't get them, if we don't sign a Gehi, if we don't sign an Isak, for example, this window will go from one of the greatest in Premier League history to a good window. We've weakened. We don't have a Diaz to bring on anymore. We don't have a Núñez to bring on anymore. And yes, people can say, well, they should have been sold, but there needed to be a plan in place. And maybe there is. There's still a couple of weeks left of the window. Well, there's a week left of the window. Let's get those deals done and work on it. In perspective, we've won 2 games with a side that's going through transition. Players' performance and stamina will improve. I hope so. I really, really hope so, because it's only going to get harder from here on out. And once we've got Arsenal, there's then an international break. And coming back from that, it doesn't get any easier. It really, really doesn't get any easier. And we've got to make sure that we're ready to go here, because a lot of sides have strengthened around us. A lot of sides have strengthened around the fact that they've developed. They've gone out and they've strengthened. Arsenal have brought in Zubimendi. They've brought in Gyökeres. They've brought in Eze. They are like competing with us for the title. That's undisputed. City have brought Reinders, they've brought Cherky, they brought Marmoush last January, Aït-Nouri. They've brought in good players. This is not going to be an easy league. You've also got Chelsea who have strengthened. And I understand results have maybe gone against them, but with 2 game days in, City lost against Tottenham. Fine. They smashed Wolves in the beginning. Relegation fodder. They beat them. But it's City. You expect them to come back. Arsenal have scored 6 goals, conceded none, beat United, who they're up against, and smashed Leeds all over the place. You've got Chelsea, drew that first game against Palace, but then lumped West Ham. Yeah, relegation fodder again, sure. We scraped Bournemouth and we scraped Newcastle. A Bournemouth team who had their defence cherry-picked, and we still struggled against them. A Newcastle team without Alexander Isak, down to 10 men, with Tonali off the pitch and no Anthony Gordon, and we struggled against them. Against a fully strength Arsenal side, how are we going to fare? Against the City side, how are we going to fare? There needs to be an improvement. As much as we've been brilliant, as much as we've got the result, that's fantastic. That's brilliant. We got moments like this under Graham Souness. We got moments like this towards the end of the tenureship of Roy Evans. We got moments like this for Dalglish in his second stint. We've had moments. A moment does not make your season. And as great as a moment this is, and I'm not trying to put a dampener on it, as great as a time this is, a massive, monumental moment, it's not good enough in terms of the long-term picture. There's clear areas of the pitch where we can see we need more depth. There's clear areas of the pitch which we can see need strengthening. And today, we got fortunate and lucky to get out of St. James's Park with 3 points. Do I think that we can do it against Arsenal? Absolutely. But I'm cautious. As time's going on, I'm a little bit more cautious as to what's going on. Why the slot play a high line with vulnerable Konate, Kirkes, bring back control? I think Newcastle just physically outmatched us today. You can't see your competitors getting stronger and have depth. This next spend, we should get 2 players in at least, be in the top 3. Get Jay Redmond on, Lewis. Why can I not think who Jay Redmond is? Am I not good enough? Let me know. Arsenal got stronger, City the same, Chelsea even stronger, and Wirtz needs to do more, looks too timid and easily shoved off the ball. Like I said, it's been a brilliant window so far for us, but it's only as good as what we end it as, because if we come out of this window in the manner which we are now, we're weaker. We're a weaker team. We are a team that has been depleted in terms of quantity. We've gone for quality over quantity, and that's what Pep said. That's why he's getting rid of Akanji. That's why he's getting rid of Edison, because he said he wants a smaller squad. I think managers now have clicked onto the idea that the quadruple is just, it's a pipe dream. It's never going to happen. I think this whole narrative of, we're going to win every trophy and go on all fronts, no one's going to do it. So I think managers now are sort of saying, right, we're going to prioritize this competition. I want a smaller squad that can just go for hell for leather on this competition. The problem is we destroyed our attacking depth, got a lack of options at centre-back as much as we've got Endo and Gomez. I wouldn't trust them in that match today. Really wouldn't. And look, I will end on positive, I swear, but there's just concerns in my head. But overall, my thoughts on the match, our performance, I would be giving this a 3 out of 10. Because we were pretty poor. And we did well to get the goals. Gravenberch's goal was brilliant from him. The dummy, the finish, absolutely sensational. You've then got Ekitike's goal, which if that was Darwin Nunez, he blasts it straight at the keeper. He blasts it straight at Nick Pope. Undeniably, he did brilliant there. Started off the play, got into that position. And then Rio and Ngumoha, composed finish, brilliant. But again, things to work on. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think this was a good match, bad match? I know the result overall, but still causes for concern. Make sure to click like and subscribe. Head over to Anfield Index, the website, go through everything. There's a billion things to do. And let me know, and this is really important, the feedback for this. This was very thrown together. I had a big plan in my head about what I wanted to do in terms of the PowerPoint and everything like that. The Newcastle one was the first match that I picked to do this, and that added time really messed me up. But let me know what you guys think. Do you like the Late Night with Lewis show, or Lewis's Late Night? What have you? I'm going to start getting guests on. This is going to be a prominent feature throughout the season. So make sure you leave feedback on whether or not you enjoy it. I'm not a tactically brilliant person, as you can tell. I'm just passionate. And that match today really just sent me overboard, and I had to sort of get it all out. But I enjoyed doing this. If you haven't done it already, so make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to see more of me, check out my channel. It's called Beyond the Carpets in the bottom there. Right there, if you want to see more of my stuff. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. I will see you all in the next stream. 3-2. We've just beaten Newcastle 3-2. Like, free Isak.